So one of the things I'm trying to do as part of this whole process is to use LinkedIn better. I've had a LinkedIn account for, I don't know, maybe since it was created, but I barely used it. Um, I updated some information about me. I've used mine to administer some business accounts, but my own personal one, I barely used it. I had like 200 connections, some of whom I didn't know because they just added me, and some of whom I knew. And you know how they like, when you first join a social network, they import all your contacts. So some of them, like people I hadn't talked to in forever. Anyway, I just didn't use it. And I've been thinking like I really gotta network better, and one of the ways I can do that is obviously through LinkedIn. So I've been, connecting with a lot of people, many of whom I don't know, and just trying to see if we can find a connection. And I'm trying to network properly, right? I'm trying to do vertical networking, which is networking out of the space of people I know, so people who are different ages than me, people who do different stuff, and I'm trying to use it to do that. But I'm just trying to make connections, and because I basically I want to go out there and I want to help people out if I can, and if they can help me out, that's great. If not, it doesn't matter. I've been reading a lot about that kind of attitude and how it can be helpful, and I agree with it. Even though I don't necessarily agree with the woo mysticism behind it, I agree with the practice. I think that's reciprocity is a very valuable thing, and so I'm going out there networking, trying to anyway. I only had a couple calls and meetings as a result of it. Couple, really, when I say a couple, I mean like two so far. Supposed to have another one soon. Um, and I'm also trying to be a good LinkedIn citizen, comment occasionally, or like people's posts and support them. Just be a good, as they would call it in the '90s, netizen for this social network. And this guy, who I don't know, but who I guess I must have connected with in one of my flurries of trying to increase my number of total connections, he posted this thing last week, which I didn't want to comment on because I just felt like a dick. But I should backtrack. So remember Google Plus? Google Plus was a very insular and weird place, and there was this great meme called "Mean." You should Google it. Meanwhile, in Google Plus, of like a bunch of men sitting in a hot tub and they couldn't fit in the hot tub, and I was just like, this is exactly how I feel about Google Plus. There were all these people, they were all sort of trying to fish in the same pond, and there weren't any clients. They were like I was in the SEO community in Google Plus, and everybody in the SEO community was on Google Plus because they all claimed it was better than Facebook, which whatever. I mean, that was not an argument I was getting involved in, but like that's how they felt. Clearly, that was not true from a popular perspective, whether or not it was true technically. And they'd all like post stuff, and they'd be like, "Great job!" And like they'd post stuff, and there'd be all these people like giving thumbs up and like saying great things about it, but they were all their competitors or colleagues. I don't know. I would be really surprised if any of them ever got any clients through it. Maybe they did. Maybe I was missing something. But all I would see is like the feedback on the content shared in Google Plus was like content from other SEO people, or sorry, comments from other SEO people, likes from other plus ones on Google Plus. And they'd share, they get shared by other SEO people, and it was just like this group of like 500 SEO professionals, all put it crudely, in a massive circle jerk where they were all telling each other how great their stuff was. And I really like I secretly wanted to see like the actual results. Do you get clients from this? Now maybe they did. The other thing is maybe they got clients indirectly. Like maybe the people on Google Plus shared it outside of Google Plus too. Like someone took it from Google Plus that they saw it on there, shared it on Twitter, or shared it on Facebook, or even mentioned, maybe added it to their newsletter or something, and maybe they got clients that way. In that sense, maybe the time was well spent. But I couldn't see any of that, and I couldn't see any data to suggest that this was anything but everyone just giving each other a pat on the back, to put it more politely, over and over and over again. And I kind of found it amusing. I didn't get my experience with companies on Google Plus was that it was not useful from a business perspective. I know a lot of people liked it as a social network. So, as I was saying last week, I see a post by somebody who I've recently connected with, who's an influencer marketing person, and he posts an anecdote about how influencer marketing has worked for one of his clients, which is a dating site. And this dating site, I don't know the name of the dating site, used an influencer, and someone DM'd the influencer saying, it's because of your use of this dating site that I met my future partner. And it seems like a great, wonderful story. Everyone's very happy. And he shared it and said, you can't tell me influencer marketing doesn't work. And it's one person. It's one story. One. And the response was like, all these pluses, all these thumbs up. Jesus, I'm getting my social networks confused. All these thumbs up, all these comments saying, great job, this is amazing, this is inspiring, all this stuff. And I was sitting there thinking, like, this is terrible. I really want to just ruin the party and say, like, this doesn't prove anything. Anecdotes are not evidence. You know, if you have like 100 of these, I don't know anything about the client. Maybe we're onto something. Maybe. I'm very skeptical of influencer marketing. I think that it makes sense in certain circumstances. Say, for example, makeup. There's a lot of, I could tell you personal stories about makeup tutorials and their effects on somebody I know well. So I do think it works in certain circumstances, but just like all other aspects of online marketing, it is not a blanket situation. And I wanted to say that, but then there was part of me that was like, I think I might just get like the LinkedIn equivalent of unfriended for this. Because I'm not participating in the way that these people seem to be using LinkedIn, which is like to just pat each other on the back like they're on Google Plus or something. For me, all I saw there was an anecdote that didn't prove anything. And as an influencer marketing skeptic, you need more than like one person saying that they joined a site because this person probably paid lots of money, briefly promoted this dating site, or constantly. Who the hell knows? I don't know anything about the client. I just thought it was really interesting, both because I didn't see anyone criticizing the sample size at all, but also I thought it was interesting, and like for me personally, in a different circumstance, I would have been all over that. Just like, poor sample size alert, some snarky poor sample size alert or something like that, or like, anecdotes are not a substitute for data, or whatever you want to say. But I stopped myself because I was like, right now the goal of me being on LinkedIn is to meet people. And maybe that comment speaking the truth there would actually get me some attention. I don't know. But I was also thinking like some of these people I've connected with, and maybe I would lose them as connections. And so maybe I'm a bit of a coward in this regard because I didn't post it, or maybe it's worthwhile. I haven't decided yet. It's been a number of days. I don't sit back and see if anyone has actually pointed out this is pointless. Like this is, it's one story. It's compelling. It's using that story to market the brand might be a good idea, right? This person heard about this celebrity influencer and match. Maybe that's a good base for some kind of ad or something. But like, it doesn't prove that influencer marketing works for dating sites. I mean, maybe I don't have any access to any data. I don't know if it works or not. I'm skeptical simply because, I don't pay a lot of attention to influencers, except for within the SEO world. And so I have a hard time, if I was single, I have a hard time imagining that I would go on Twitter or something, or Instagram or whatever, and see someone famous who I follow say, I met my current person on dating site X. And then I would be like, oh, maybe I should use that one. I mean, maybe I would. Maybe people do. My point is that one example of this working is not proof that it works. You need a lot of examples of it, not just one. Unless you want to turn that one into, like I said, into a new ad or something, and use this story of this influencer who, connected with this person who became a customer as like a way of showing off the effectiveness of the app or the site or whatever. Like, that's how I see it as valuable, not as like proof that influencer marketing works. I mean, And I think it comes down to, with influencer marketing, it comes down to data. There's not enough data for the most part. No one knows. People are throwing tens of millions of dollars at some of at the most prominent, and lots of other money at other people. And for the most part, nobody knows whether it works or not. They can't prove it, and that feels like a bubble to me. And it feels like it's happened before. It certainly happened with earlier forms of social media. Um, and it just seems like silly, and like, you should only, I personally think you should only go and try influencer marketing if it makes a lot of sense for your product. Like, if you are giving free shit to people, or paying them, and they are demonstrating your product online somewhere, and like, that makes sense to me. um, but I'm not sure that's what we're talking about here with the dating app. Maybe we are. Maybe I just don't get it. I don't know. I am, you know not the target demographic, I think, for these kinds of things. Because, like, for me, uh, my dating experience, I can't even remember the dating sites I used anymore. It's terrible. The one I met my girlfriend on is not even coming to mind, which just goes to show you how little I pay attention to this stuff right now. Because I keep wanting to say Plenty of Fish, and it wasn't Plenty of Fish. I found Plenty of Fish not helpful. Anyway, that's another story. I wanted to complain about influencer marketing, and how I don't think anecdotes prove that it works. I think you need to find actual proof, and I haven't seen any. Of course, if you know any, I'm happy to look at it. I'd be really interested, actually, to look at it. Personally, I would love to see some evidence that it works, because then I might actually tell people I know, like, to use it. So, there's this other thing that happened to me on LinkedIn too, and I'm a little worried about this one. I'm a little worried about mentioning it, because I know the person I'm talking about has watched the first video of these. And so I'm concerned that, like, I don't want to burn any bridges. So I met this very nice lady for coffee yesterday, and she, um, I connected with her because she's older, basically. I don't know any people. Everybody I know is around my age or younger, for the most part, and so many people do what I do. And she's involved in a different world. She was in the corporate world for a long time, and she's done other things, and she's in worlds that I am not. So I reached out to her, like I'm reaching out to many people, and unlike most people on LinkedIn, she actually connected with me, and she's been very nice. And so I'm worried that by saying what I'm about to say, I'm I'm ending that relationship. Which, if that happens, I guess that happens, because to me, uh, the content is a little more important. Um, so basically, we had coffee, and I'm trying to get meetings. I'm trying to meet people. I'm my goal right now isn't to pitch people, and certainly not her. She was not a target in any way, because she knows what she's doing in the world that I am in. But more just to make connections with people. I want to meet as many people as possible now, and because I need to expand my network, and I want to have good relationships. So again, like, not wanting to post on that LinkedIn post that was making ridiculous claims based on a sample size of one, I also and I didn't want to post there because I was worried about being a bad citizen. I'm worried of LinkedIn. I'm worried about being a bad citizen of LinkedIn right now for mentioning something. We so we had coffee. Well, I don't drink coffee. I had tea, but we had coffee, and we talked about networking in person and why it's a better idea. And we both agreed that, like, meeting in person, or at least, like, or knowing people beyond just chatting through messenger, various messenger forms and text and stuff, is better, and, like, why it's good to do relationships, because in the future either of us might be able to help you. And that went really well, and she seemed very, very nice, and like, I liked her, and everything was going well until she told me the reason why we were meeting, which was that she was pitching a pyramid scheme to me. And I was very polite. I feigned enthusiasm at one point, I believe, which is not nice, right? Like, I was very shy as a child, and I've never been very good with social interactions, and I often try. I think so. I don't even realize I'm doing it. I try to tell people what they want to hear. I'm a people pleaser, And it's terrible, and I don't want to do it, but I do it, and it's one of the things in my life that I don't like. I wish I didn't do, but like I did feign a bit of enthusiasm. I was very polite, and I never once said, this sounds like a pyramid scheme, but it did. And anyway, I I get home and I type in the company into Google, and I type the letters. It's a acronymed company. I won't mention it. And I do space, and the next word that pops up in Google search is pyramid. So that made me feel pretty good that I was able to suss it out, because the one thing about like these things, it's really easy to criticize other people who are in pyramid schemes, and you go, "Oh, this would never happen to me. I'm so street smart." Blah blah blah. Lots of people fall for them. I mean, they call it multi-level marketing, and especially in the States, but here too, and everywhere, these multi-level marketing companies have managed to create legal pyramid schemes by walking a very fine line and creating. There's in the States, there's like a history of like court battles over this stuff of definitions and things, but like they manage, when they have real products, they're able to avoid the charge of a pyramid scheme, because of course pure pyramid schemes don't have products. Really, the product is just getting more people. These multi-level marketing companies, they what they do is they have products, but you still make the most money from recruiting people, which is why they're still pyramid schemes. They're just less pure pyramid schemes. But it's really easy to judge people who fall for them. It's really, we're as human beings, we're very good at judging other people for everything that they do wrong, and we are very good at deciding that it would never happen to us. So I was just happy with myself that I was able to suss it out while it was happening to me, and to recognize, because of course the idea of money coming in with not a lot of effort, even, it doesn't matter who you are or how smart you are, it is tempting, right? There's this real pull, like especially someone like me who is not making a lot of money at the moment. There's a real lure in like money for nothing. As much as I know at a rational level that that's nonsense and doesn't really, it only happens to a very select few very lucky people. It's still, it's so tempting, and it's especially tempting when, in this particular case, the pitch is really well thought out. What they're selling, it makes some sense. There's some kind of economic case for something like that existing, through a more conventional business structure. And also the buy-in was so low compared to the pyramid schemes I'm aware of, that like you almost want to think it's not a pyramid scheme, because you're like, well, that's not very much money. They can't be ripping us off, because I mean, look at that, there's so little money. Anyway, so that was an interesting experience. Otherwise, the conversation went well, I hope. And I mean, I probably burned a bridge right now. I hope I didn't, but I probably did. But it's just being on LinkedIn. It's not without its experiences and entertainments, and it's an interesting experience being on LinkedIn this aggressively so far. It's maybe taking up a little too much of my time, but it's definitely not. My life has not been boring, especially this week, given what just happened to me yesterday. So that's something, I guess. I mean, anyway, I think that's all I have to say for this update. But it was, yeah, sometimes you see this stuff coming, sometimes you don't see it coming, right? And I didn't really see it coming. I'm a very skeptical person when it comes to anything I read or anything I watch. Very, very skeptical, sometimes too skeptical. I am the opposite of that when I meet people. When I meet people, I want, not only do I want to please them, but I want to believe them deep down. It's funny, I know somebody who's like the reverse of me, walks into a room, meets someone the first time, and is instantly trying to analyze what they're after, like instantly, and then like reads like crazy stuff online or watches a really poorly made video, a conspiracy video, and decides that everything in those things is true. And I'm like, it's interesting. We're like these polar opposites that way, because I'm very, very want to believe anything someone tells me in person. You tell that to me in print, and I am very, very skeptical. And I don't know why. Some deep-seated psychological reasons, I'm sure. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed my LinkedIn experiences this week. They have been fun for me anyway.